Since there are significant ramifications for what will happen with the crypto ETFs, it is necessary to discuss the government shutdown. We must discuss this. Even if you might not want to hear it, kindly give today's video a like. Thank you. Take a look at this. It appears that the introduction of new spot crypto ETFs would undoubtedly be impacted by a protracted government shutdown. Oh no, the October ETF filings may be postponed for a while. This is hilarious, guys. Naturally, a block swan develops in the month before XRP launches, causing as many ETFs as possible to be approved. This delays the approval of ETFs for XRP as well as other coins such as Litecoin and, I believe, Solana. This is hilarious. Registrations and filings are processed and approved by regulated businesses and registrants. Applications for registration by organizations such as investment advisors, broker-dealers, transfer agents, nationally recognized statistical rating agencies, investment businesses, and municipal advisors, as well as with regard to new financial products, will not be reviewed and approved by the SEC. Isn't that right? Evaluate and authorize modifications to self-regulatory organization rules, evaluate or expedite the efficacy of restoration statements, or evaluate or qualify issuers offering statements for securities offerings. Examine regular reports and other documents. Not offer registrants non-emergency assistance. Guys, this just happened because of the government shutdown. Isn't that right? The SEC appears to have planned this, or at the very least, they are getting ready for it. Due to the government shutdown and appropriations expiring on August 7th, the US SEC's operations plan is up to 25. Here is a PDF, gentlemen, and it basically states that the plan for lows includes 90% of the SEC's workforce, or 4,289 employees. So we have roughly 4,000 employees for the SEC, but many of them will not be compensated for their labor. Therefore, it's likely that they will simply be at a standstill. The agency will only have a very small number of SEC employees accessible starting on October 1st, 2025, and continuing until further notice. They had 4,289 workers, but now they only have 393 workers left for emergencies like market surveillance and fraud investigations. Since we need the government shutdown to end, that's really ridiculous, which is why the approvals of the ETFs are likely to be delayed until further notice. That is, if we want to have the ETFs approved here in the upcoming weeks for XRP. With an emphasis on the mission components of investor protection and market integrity, the SEC has personnel on hand to respond to emergencies. Thus, that is the sole explanation. Since all of the other members are currently out, that is the only thing they will be concentrating on here, guys. Currently, they only employ roughly 9% of their staff, correct? Consider this, out of 4,289 employees, they now only have 393 men. They currently have a crew of roughly 90%. This effectively stops regular efforts like evaluating and enhancing new financial instruments, like crypto ETFs, and restricts the authorities to critical tasks, like market surveillance and emergency fraud investigations. Whoa, that's insane. What? I believe that we are living in an upside-down simulation, guys. You know I'm serious. This is unsettling. Is there anything related to XRP? It is usually delayed. Whether directly or indirectly, something always occurs in the globe or in the cryptocurrency ecosystem that causes XRP to be delayed for whatever reason. This is odd. Why is it the case? What? Guys, I'm gonna blow up. In order to indicate that new listing requirements are in place and that approvals can move forward once personnel is restored, the SEC directed the issuers of XRP, Solana, Cardano, Dogecoin, and Litecoin to remove their 19B4 application. They said, yes folks, this is absurd. Yes, and these are all of the various ETFs deadlines, but this will be postponed until the closure of the government has ended. For anyone interested in the hashtag #NASDAQ Crypto Index ETF, here is an update. Along with Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Stellar, XLM, and XRP, Cardano will also be listed. Correct. It's incredible to witness, but I suppose everyone is currently anticipating the SEC, guys. I thought, well, so now that we have a government shutdown, right, but let's see what happens. What happens if it's a partial one? What follows? And what is the typical turnaround time for their restoration here? I looked it up and found that the US government shuts down. Since 1976, the US government has experienced 10 shutdowns due to 20 financial shortfalls. Parts of the federal government must close until a spending plan is approved, which occurs when Congress cannot agree on the budget. The funding deficit is represented by these gray boxes, while the shutdown's duration in days is indicated by the black box. Thus, A total of 10 shutdowns have occurred over the years. It took 3 days, from November 20th to November 23rd. It took 2 days to go down here, from September 30th to October 2nd. Here there was a day, or perhaps 2 days as well. Additionally, I believe the longest duration during this time was, guys, about 20 days. Right here in the late 1900s, it was about 20 days, and the US government went 16 years without a shutdown. Alright, this gap is located here. This shutdown occurred in 2013, and it was said to have lasted for a few days. It lasted for 17 days. Then it actually lasted more than 30 days in 2019. Isn't that correct? During the administration of President Donald Trump. The range then is from a few days to 30 days or so, correct? And depending on what transpires, it might linger longer if the black zone was even more bizarre. There you have it. It appears to me that the ETFs will be postponed until everything is restored, even if it's just a few days wait. And who can predict when it will be? People are talking about possibly in a few days. Right, it will not take long. The government shutdown has a 1% probability of ending, according to a betting website right here. Alright, I believe there will be less than 1% chance here, by tomorrow, October 1st at a second. Alright, so they think that's what it is. Oh, have a look at this 7% chance from October 3rd to October 5th, October 6th and 9, 27%, October 10th, 14-28%, or October 15th, or later 35%. At the moment the market holds this belief. However, once more, if they don't, it will still be delayed as the days go by if it isn't lifted now, people. We need this as soon as possible because it will be delayed more and more. However, it could take the entire month. That's the Albolco again. Everything that comes with XRP is delayed. So essentially they created this crisis so that XRP would be delayed. I apologize to the entire world. It was all XRP's fault. According to Jake, it would be absurd if the government shutdown led to the repeal of the Clarity Act, and XRP was the only cryptocurrency available in the NASES when they needed one to address the looming liquidity crisis caused by the unwinding of the reverse carry trade. This seems a little odd, doesn't it? By tomorrow, it is anticipated that 1.5 million federal workers will be placed on furlough. What takes place? Thus, the US government has shut down during a shutdown. All of the suspended data is shown here, unemployment insurance and non-farm payrolls. Therefore, other factors, including newly released economic data, will also cause delayed rates, in addition to ETFs. Guys, we're putting all of this on hold. America, congratulations, the federal government shut down. The government is not operating. It was simple. What comes next? Then, let's pay attention. America, congratulations. There is no federal government. It was simple. Unless you're cashing a check at taxpayer cost, like the 740,000 federal employees who are currently on furlough, or the millions of tax-funded left-wing NGOs that have been shut down, you most likely didn't notice. To refresh your memory, the federal budget is voted on annually and expires at midnight. In other words, the government is theoretically prohibited from spending any more money. It has been shut down. Naturally, at least 70% of the government is excluded and continues to operate. The Department of Justice, the military, air traffic, courts and so-called required expenses like Social Security, Medicare and Medicaid are all included in this. Therefore, anything that is necessary for, isn't that the naysayers of the American islands? Thus it's only traffic and other things such as military. And the Department of Justice and the courts continue to operate because they are necessary, but the others are put on hold until more progress is made. Unfortunately, the Federal Reserve continues to operate because it prints its budget in the basement. That was hilarious. I always laugh when I hear about